Thank you, guys. I would like to welcome everyone for attending today's session. One thing that I'm excited about is that we're going to learn to revolutionize the way we scale Scrum. Su Yu is going to dive deep into subsumption architecture today. Now, a little intro about her. With over 16 years of experience in coaching and guiding organizations to adopt Agile and Scrum at the enterprise level, she has worked with Fortune 500 companies. Sue has a remarkable ability to create and sustain an engaged, empowered, and energized working environment, helping teams to become self-managed and deliver products and services that bring joy to all involved. Without further ado, please give a hand of applause and welcome her. Sue, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Wei. Thank you for that nice introduction. And thank you, two ladies, for joining me today to explore the power of subsumption architecture. I believe that just as it revolutionized the robotics industry, I think that you can do the same for Agile by bringing true agility to the entire organization. So hopefully by the end of this webinar, you will gain an understanding of how subsumption architecture can unleash agility and inspire and empower you to initiate this transformation in your organization. So let me just give you a brief journey with my journey with Scrum. So back in 2008, almost 16 years ago, Ken Schreiber came to New York City. And as you all know, that Ken Schreiber is the co-founder, co-creator of the Scrum. And he came to introduce Scrum. And this is when I was working for this energy building software company, where I was helping them to improve their quality of software as well as quality of their lives. So I had a vast interest in learning everything about what Scrum is about, and so other frameworks as well. But when I heard about what Scrum can do, I was definitely sold on all the benefits that it has to offer. But then when I was working for a big company, like a large organization like ADP and Accenture, I hit a major roadblock. The problem was that the scaling Scrum and scaling Agile wasn't as easy as it was for a large organization. It was much easier in a small organization, but then when you was trying to do it for large organization, it wasn't as easy. And we tried a less featured team. Featured team definitely works. But then when it becomes much bigger, like less huge, it became very chaotic. Oh, it's very funny. It just went to next screen without me doing anything. What's going on here? All right. So anyway, so I was in search of, well, SAFe. Yeah, SAFe. We will talk about SAFe later on. I believe SAFe is a very good framework. It's just that I don't think it's a right, good framework for being, bringing agility to an organization. As you will see, how we can really do this through using the subsumption architecture. So I was in search for a very good scaling framework for Scrum. And that's when I met Mike Peter. As you know, Mike Peter is the Agile Manifesto signature. Did you know that Mike is the one who suggests the term Agile at the gathering? Yeah, and you also know that he is the first person implementing Scrum at an enterprise level. And of course, he's a creator of the Enterprise Scrum. And he also wrote a book with Ken Schreiber, which happened to be the first book on Scrum, called Agile Software Development with the Scrum, published in 2001. So I met him in 2016 when he came to New York City. Again, like I live in New York for a while. And I was living in New York City at that time as well, in the Murray Hill area. And he came to the meetup, and then he wanted to, presented this enterprise Scrum for business agility. And what he did was that he made a lot of changes to the enterprise Scrum so that it fits the need of business agility. But I was particularly interested in the way that his approach with the scaling Scrum. So this picture was taken right after I signed a contract with him, becoming an Enterprise Scrum instructor. So as I was saying, Mike's approach to scaling Scrum is quite revolutionary. I didn't hit the OK button for it's okay to record. Okay, so yeah. So Mike's approach is, as I was saying before, that he's using the subsumption architecture to the organizational design that really brings agility throughout the whole organization. I don't know whether you guys know. Why I don't know why this screen just goes and advance to the next screen without me doing it. It's like there's a ghost around here. Anyway, he passed away in 2018. So it has been quite a journey for me, putting all these pieces that he has left and what I learned and putting my experience all together to come to where I am. Oh, and actually, by the way, this, what you are hearing today was also presented at the Scrum Gathering, 2024 Scrum Gathering that happened in May of this year in New Orleans. And the only thing, the difference was that it was done in a workshop format. Workshop format is actually very good as well because you get to really taste, try this concept. So anyway, so why subsumption architecture? Why use that, apply it, right? I think that the real, it's autonomy. Actually, when I was preparing for this slide, I was just gonna put autonomy all by itself because autonomy is the fundamental foundation of being an agile, right? It's so essential because without the autonomy, all the benefits of the Scrum cannot be, or Agile cannot be realized. And without autonomy, I believe the Scrum scale is not Scrum anymore. It's like built on sand, just shambles. So in real estate, it's location. Actually, in Agile, it's autonomy. Now, as you will see in this webinar, it facilitates a decentralized decision-making process. So by doing that, team can make their own decisions and then they can collaborate across the whole organization. Because teams can make their own decisions and collaborate together, it enables the all-at-once management, which is crucial to deliver products fast to the market. This all brings a synergy and alignment throughout the whole organization. Most of all, it comes down to survival and profit. Because we live in a very disruptive environment. And for an organization to survive in this kind of environment, they need to learn how to adapt quickly to respond to all the changes. So what do you think is the biggest challenge with the scaling Scrum? So there may be many reasons, but I believe it is managing interdependencies. Because we have multiple teams working together, we need to create an environment so that they cannot step it into each other. So if we don't manage this very well, a lot of times it leads to a dependency nightmare. I've seen a lot of organizations have a wall just managing the dependency. This is not how it should be done, right? Because, it's so, if you have there's a lack of autonomy basically leads to less empowered team, and team becomes not committed, and they're not accountable, and which leads to a poor morale. All this creates a bottleneck, which leads to delay, which we don't want. So, and Scrum just doesn't work. So I see many scaling framework handles this dependency through adding more roles and meetings and processes where by adding layers of hierarchy, where the decision is coming from the top to bottom. And this basically is more of a centralized model, right? where the decision-making process, this type of decision-making process is an autonomy, and it just creates a bottleneck. Team becomes very less agile, and then again, it introduces delay. So we open here that don't scale, just descale. That's only one of the way of decentralizing decision-making process by flattening the hierarchy. But we can do there's a flat organization, there's no hierarchy. That's definitely one way of doing this. But I believe problem is not necessarily hierarchy. In fact, when we have a complex problem, we do need the hierarchy can help us solve those problems. The problem is that how we use the hierarchy. How you use the hierarchy. As you will see in this webinar, subsumption architecture uses the hierarchy to facilitate this decentralized decision-making process. The hierarchy that I will be talking about, be presenting it to you, is not a command and control hierarchy that you usually see that the decision is flowing from the top to bottom. It's rather each layer has a responsibility executing its own, as well as deciding whether to subsume the lower layers. So that's the hierarchy layer. And this is how robot is able to respond dynamically in real time. Now, did you know that, do you know what inspired Jeff Sutherland to create Scrum? It's the subsumption architecture. So I don't know how, some of you probably know what subsumption architecture is, Samantha maybe. So now let me share the story, how Jeff learned about subsumption architecture. So back in 1990s, Jeff Sutherland rented his office space to this company, iRobotics, where Professor Rodney Brook and his teams were building a robot. Right? So Professor Rodney Brook is the creator of the subsumption architecture. And Jeff had a first-hand experience with the robot. And he saw robot running around, walking around, hanging around in the office. And he was just amazed how he was doing all that. So one day he asked Professor Rodney Brook how it works. And Professor Rodney Brook said, for 30 years, they were trying to build this robot using a very intelligent system. And the best they came up with was a smart chess program. And then he and his team discovered this thing called subsumption architecture. It was completely a game changer. And this is where after he learned about this, Jeff was saying that, oh, maybe I can use this similar thing to my programmers. Maybe the slow programmer can become, learn from others and learn from what they've done, and then they become better. So that's how it started. So let me share with you how what is subsumption architecture is by going through a very simple example. So how does a robot explore the world? So in order for a robot to explore the world, it first has to know how to avoid an object. Once it knows how to avoid an object, it can then wander around. And then it can do an explore world. So the behavior of explore world is it's subdivided in this hierarchical manner, with the avoid object being on the bottom layer, and then one of is the wander around, and then explore world. Now, next, I want to also introduce two other major functions of robotics subsumption architecture. That is sensor and actuators. The function of sensor is to monitor its surroundings and sends the signal to all the layers when all the signals that it needs to. And then actuator is the one that actually carrying out the action that it needs to do. So so, somehow this I need to figure something out because this is like it advances to next slide for some reason, and I thought that I'm touching this thing, but it's not the case. So I'm sorry about a little. Sometimes the slides going through before it needs to. Okay, so let's go through another example. That is, how does a robot avoid hitting a wall while it roams? So as the robot roams around, when it's just about to hit the wall, sensor sends a signal to both wander around and avoid object layers. And then wander around has to decide whether it needs to avoid the wall or hit a wall. And depending on what it does, it activates the actuator to actually avoid a wall. And all these three things, they all work together so that they can respond in real time. Again, there's no central processor. They all work together, replacing the role of central processor. Now, let's dig in more what I mean by subsuming, because subsuming is not something that we use normally, right? Who uses subsuming? So let's dig in, right? What subsuming means in this case. So first of all, it is not a command and control relationship. It is more of inform and decide kind of relationship. So as I was telling you before, when a robot is about to hit the wall, right, sensor sends a signal to both all the layers, in this case, wander and avoid object. Now, wander around has to decide whether to avoid a wall or not. And if it wants to avoid a wall, then it subsumes the lower layers of behavior, which in this case, avoid object to avoid the wall. Now, what I would like to point out in here is the avoid objects behavior in here. Avoid object does not rely on, not directly rely waiting for a command from the wander around, the layer above. Rather, it waits for a signal from the sensor. Sensor sends the signal that we are just about to hit the wall, you gotta do what you need to do. And then it activates an actuator to actually avoid the wall. So again, this all work together, and that's how it's enabling the autonomy without a real central processor. Now, I want to ask you guys, so let me stop here and then answer some of the questions that you might have. So I think the Samantha said that isn't wall an object? Wall is an external, it's an environment that's happening outside the robot. It is the environment that robot has to deal with. It's the condition, it's a surrounding, it's environment that robot has to deal with. And sensor sense this, and then this subsumption layer, there are many subsumption layers in here. I just made it very simple way of representing this so that we kind of get an understanding of what it is. Okay, let's move on. So what are some of the key functions of the subsumption architecture? First, there's this hierarchical subsumption layers that complex behaviors is divided into subgroups where the higher layers subsumes the lower layer. Again, it is not a command and control relationship where rather it's an informed and decided relationship. And this is a very key, essential part of the architecture, because if we do not have the right hierarchical subsumption layers, all these other things, sensor and actuator, will not function properly. Again, sensor is basically its role is the monitoring its surround and it sends a signal to the various layers. And actuator is the one that actually does the work. it carries out the action that needs to be done. And then lastly, this is what a lot of Scrum and Scrum teams, Jeff's idea of Scrum implementation, which without utilizing these other these two functions of subsumption, that is the learning from the past behavior. Because as I was saying, he really liked the fact that his slow program not becoming better. So in robotics, that they insert a blank tip for it to learn from what it has done. So again, there's no central processor, they all work together. This is how they decentralize decision-making process so that they can have an autonomous teams. And so they would be able to respond dynamically. So how might we apply the subsumption architecture into scaling and Scrum? So what I'm going to go through is that I'm going to go through an example of applying subsumption architecture to organizational design for this company called eAction. So let's go through that. So let me just give you a brief overview of eAction company. Basically, this eAction company is an online action company that provide online action services. First, what they started was that they started with the airline companies where they offer passengers who already bought tickets and then invite them to upgrade their seats through the online bidding. And then, so this is like a more of a win-win situation for both passengers and airline companies, because the passenger has a chance to enjoy very luxurious flying experience, possibly at a potentially discounted price. And airline company, it's beneficial for them, and because they can sell as many tickets as they have. And so they were so successful with what they are offering. They are now offering the services to the Broadway theater production companies. And now they just added the service to the artists who are selling their paintings. So they requested, these are the two major design criteria for them. They want to have a customer-centric design for their organization. And also they want to make sure that they still have this culture of ownership and accountability by empowering the teams to make their own decisions. Okay, so let's go through how we might, before we do that, so typically, traditionally, we see a structure like this. Right, this is a lot of organizations probably have their org structure, something similar to this. Like they have a platform team providing a lot of common libraries and stuff. And then the action team, so more or less an app team for each team doing the airline or depending on which customer it is. And then there's a separate marketing department that does the marketing for each different customer segment, customers, right? And the business unit. And so I want to ask you, is this design a customer centric? Okay, now, so what is the focus of this design? I believe this is more of a functional efficiency, like the way we have a silo depending on the functionality of what they do, what the teams do. And so this may be a feature teams, but then just because it's a feature team doesn't mean they are customer centric. Okay, so let's take a look at how we might apply subsumption architecture to an org design. It always start with the providing value proposition for a customer segment and developing features and services. And then next up, you would have a business unit, rolling up the business unit, and then up to a VC, the company level, where the company, the leadership providing the clear picture of, painting a good picture of their mission and vision. So let's take a look at how might we do this for these e-auction companies. Again, same thing. You work we are now working for airline customers, right? So providing value proposition, in this case, providing the auction apps to the passengers. And then you have a marketing and sales team doing what marketing and sales do all the time, which is their strategy and tactics for both passengers and airline companies as well. And then business unit, roll it up to business unit, which subsumes all this airline customer segment, and then the leadership. So let's go through more. Let's drill it down more. So for this company, as I was saying, that they have 3 different customer segments that they are working for. They're working for. That is airline, and then the theater production, and then artists, right? So now this is a snapshot of this e-auction at this point of their growth. And again, their design criteria was that they want a customer-centric, they want to empower an accountable team. So how might you do that? Again, for an airline, this is basically serving the airline customer segments. On the bottom layer, all the way bottom, you have a marketing and sales team. And in the whatever they have, it's fed into platform team and airline auction team. Airline auction team is the one that actually develops the apps for the passengers as well as the airline customers. And it subsumes both airline marketing and platform. And then rolls it up to airline customer segment team. And what's their main role of this airline customer segment team is to looking at what value proposition they can offer for the airline customers. And up is the business unit, and then the e-auction leadership team. So what might happen if so next thing I mentioned was that they also now expanded to providing service to the theater production team. So how that would look like. This would be a way that you would design structure for them. Basically, the way they have is that you still have it segregated by the customer segment, which is a good segregation, not by functional silo, right? You have a marketing and sales team for the theater production customers and theater goers. And then that gets fed into platform team where they provide the libraries. And then you have a theater auction team that actually provides the ads. And then you have a theater production customer segment team that, again, works purely that's geared for the theater production company's value proposition. Now, important thing to look at and important to see here is now business unit oversees a portfolio of customer segments here now. Okay. All right. So next, we said that we just added artists. So how might do that? This is completely, we introduced a completely different business unit team for them, because again, this is their business is a little bit different, quite different from this company that sells the ticket. They don't sell tickets, but they actually auction off their paintings. So this company, they would like to segregate it. They would like to separate it completely differently, having a different business unit. Again, on their bottom is the marketing sales team, and then painting auction teams. So let's take a look. What are the subsumption layers for this organizational structure? Basically, these are the subsumption layer. On the bottom is the product and service again, right? That's the bottom layer. And the customer segment overseeing the value proposition for that particular customer segment, and business unit looking at the portfolio of customer segments, and then company. So what would be a service, because we are talking about scaling at an enterprise level, right? What would be other services like governance, compliance, supporting, and transformation? and talent harmony. Talent harmony is basically HR, because we don't want to consider human being as a resource. So this is based, it's just naming of that. So Mike thought that he thought very hard how this should be incorporated. Certainly, if there is a need for certain business unit that they have their specific need for their governance and compliance, you can certainly put it in there. But overall, for a company, this is best served by standing alone, serving all the business units. So I want to also point out the fact that when we grow and when we're becoming an agile, these organizational structure also has to be dynamic, depending on what stage of your business is and all other things. For now, this is for a snapshot of this e-action company at this point in time. So I want to also I want to complicate this thing a little more, so that you can really see how subsumption architecture can be really applied. Is that how would it look if we add another customer segment like sports league, like NFL? It's a completely different customer segment. Their needs are different. How would that be how would that structure? How would that be incorporated in this current organizational structure? Any thought? Give a little thought. Since we only have like 15 minutes left, I am just gonna charge along, and then you can always reach out to me if you have more questions. So if you look at it, this sports league like NFL, they are dealing with football teams, right? And then what they do is that they also sell tickets, right? So it would be best to be come off from the business unit team that deals with the customer that sells most of their tickets. And then again, you have its own sports marketing and sales team for the sports team, and then its own app team, and then the customer segment team, the dealing with the multiple portfolio of value proposition. So I kept saying that portfolio of a value proposition that handles by this customer segment team, because you have a multiple value proposition in here. So you can auction off the tickets. Also, you can have a team that provide the services to engage the football teams, and then you can have separate value proposition for that. So I want to also point out that this is using the customer segment as a basis to subsume. So let's take a look at what about the sensors functionality of the subsumption architecture. So sensors' role is to monitor its surrounding and then send a signal to all the layers, right? So in Agile space, the best way to deal with this is that to be able to send signal, you need to know what's going on. So how Mike thought this can be implemented is by having a canvas, every single team having a canvas so that they visualize what it is they're doing. And then this is also transparent to the whole organization, so they know what's going on. So now he was working very closely with, just before his passing, with this company in Brazil, Livilo, and he helped them implement something called Collaborator. So basically, Collaborator is just an experts. They go through team to team, looking at what's going on, and then execute and ask the team to execute what is appropriate. And they also implemented what's called Andan. Andan is basically used in a Toyota manufacturing company. Basically, Andan it's a signal. It's like a traffic signal kind of sign where it disseminates any problem that it might have. So that's another way they use this system. And I think that what we can do a lot is that we can specify, this is my idea. It's just like how the robot is doing. We can broadcast these messages, and then each team can subscribe to those messages if they want to hear. Just like, we're getting all these messages that from the apps and everything. So that can automate all these things. So let's take a look at how this is implement, what kind of canvases that you might look at. So for instance, let's take a look at what kind of canvas you might have for our airline marketing team. For marketing team, this will be something that they will be working off. Again, this is just a template. The thing to be, you can monitor, make a change. It's very kind of look. So you look at the marketing team and sales team, they will look at things like whether they're positioning and messaging and a campaign and things like that. So let's take a look at what is the airline action team. This is very much like business model canvas because they're building what are the value proposition for what they are providing to the customers. And then airline customer segment. This is a customer segment with the value proposition canvas. And again, they are looking at the multiple value proposition portfolio, not just one value proposition, they expand it as they grow. And then business unit team, again, business unit team, they are overseeing the portfolio of a customer segment. So these will be something that they will be doing it. So again, I believe this is like, I like to call it like a visualization on steroids. Okay, so actuator function of the Agile organization would be, actuator is actually the team actually doing the work, right? And learning from the past behavior, this is done very well with the Scrum itself. And then it's based on the Scrum. So same thing applies with the transparency and inspect and adapt. So what other factors can you think of to use as a basis, as a base for subsumption? What I just went through in here is basically using the customer segment. And Mike believes that this is the key way to, especially for new product development and then innovative type of development. And there's a whole bunch of things why this is so important. And I think that this is still hard sell because we are so geared towards the industrialization period where everything has to be efficient. But what's the sake of being inefficient if you're ripping out the features that is not valuable to the users? So if you really want to be innovative and really want to get a feedback of what the customer or end user in your customer needs, the best to do it by customer segment. Another way it can be done is by looking at the value chain. And then as you grow, as the organization grows, you could suddenly take a look at by looking at the geography. But whatever you do not do it by functional based subsumming. Just because you're using subsumption, if you do it by functional, you're just gonna end up with what you used to have it in old days. So what I have shown you today is basically he has shown us how we can use the two-level subsumption architecture behavior Scrum into an N level. The most people using it just a 2-level. And again, he using the canvases just to being able to see all the sensors and all that. Okay, so let me just compare how Scrum has got scale is using scaling. See, as you can see, they have a hierarchy. Just because they have make it this round, it doesn't mean they don't have a hierarchy. They have a hierarchy layers for meetings and roles, like Scrum of Scrum, Scrum of Scrum team. These are all hierarchy, right? And then they have roles like, these are all hierarchy, but these are, this is from the top to bottom kind of hierarchy, right? And it doesn't give you any guidance as to how you make this hierarchy either, right? What I am really, really bothered with the Scrum at scale mostly is this division of how and what and how. This is going back to what we used to do in waterfall, dividing by requirements from the development. This is no. And I still don't understand why people don't seem to figure this out, why this will not work. In that sense, Scale is done a lot more logically than Scrum at Scale. That for sure. So many other scaling frameworks still uses this to end level, more or less. And so who uses the subsumption architecture? So like, Mike used that, applied this at CBS Camera. And as I was telling you about this Revilo company in Brazil, he worked very closely with this person, Kiengia. And basically, Revilo is a betting company, and it's one of the biggest loyalty and reward program company in Brazil. And then they used this, they implemented this, and then this was during the 2017 to 2019. And of course, autonomy used to some level of the subsumption architecture. Again, I just want to wrap up. What are the benefits of using the subsumption architecture? It's autonomy. I think this, like, again, it's the foundation of an agility. And in order to have an agility requires an autonomy. So my company name is, guess what? It's called Autonomy. And again, as you've seen, I hope that I kind of explained to you how it decentralized the decision-making process. It's not a command and control. It has the layers, but it's working with the signals and then signals to enable autonomy on those hierarchical layers. And just because they're doing this, it enables all-at-once management, right? And then which enables faster time to market. Most of all, because teams are more autonomous, they can make their own decisions. They are happy, and I believe happy team makes the customer happy and eventually stakeholders. Again, it comes down to survival and profit, because team we need in a very disruptive environment, and we need to really know how to adapt and respond to the changes very quickly. And I believe subsumption architecture, and especially the way how Mike explained, it definitely creates that environment. So I have another good news. I submitted my workshop, the same thing, but it's more of a workshop format to this one of the biggest Agile conference in Baltics. And so they just accepted my workshop proposal, and I'll be presenting this in a workshop format in October. So if you guys want to join me, please come and join me as well. And that's the thing. I was preparing this because some of the people are joining from the Europe, so I wanted them to know about this so they can have a first-hand experience of how this may work in a workshop format. So as I was saying, Mike this is just one part. He was a genius, and he made so many changes to business agility, to fit the needs of the business agility. First thing he did is he changed the terms, because the terms is very important. So he made a lot of changes, but he also has a different kind of structure pattern that we can leverage from what he has done. And then for business agility, he changed the naming convention. So because that when we're talking about business agility, it is not just for the development, it's for the whole organization. So things like sprint doesn't really make sense. So he changed that to cycle. So it can be, one sprint, or it can be a long period. And he made Enterprise Scrum very pluggable and configurable. You can find out more about it from my autonomy. And also there's a short video that you can get a little glimpse of what Enterprise Scrum business agility on YouTube. So that's it. So I hope that, thank you so much for spending some of your time, your valuable time with me to explore this power of subsumption architecture. So I ask you, when you go back to your client or your organization, take a look at how decisions are made. Are there bottlenecks? Teams are waiting for a green light to be clear by somebody. As I was saying, dependency impedes autonomy. So we need autonomy for agility. So I hope that what I've shown you today kind of helped you see how it can untangle the dependency. So let's revolutionize. This is a revolutionary, right, to some degree. And so let's do it together. That's it.
Thank you, Sue.